Well, good morning, folks. Pastor Rocky Branch, Spruce Pine First Baptist Church. Today is Saturday, October the 4th, as we're moving on down the highway. I have a wedding later today. I love weddings. They're just, I just like them. I wrote a ceremony a bunch of years ago, over 30 years ago. And it's unusual, it's unique, it's not like anything that most people have ever seen before, and it's just an amazing thing. Our faith issue with our trust is very important. And the book of Hebrews chapter 11 gives us what we have called for many, many years the hallmark of faith. And it talks about a number of people that did various things, and they did it by faith. And there's just a ton of people mentioned in this 11th chapter. And it talks about Abel, it talks about Noah, it talks about Moses, it talks about Abraham, it talks about Jacob, David. I mean, it just talks about a bunch of different people. And when you think about all those people of faith, and we are challenged by our own faith and asking ourselves the question, are we living our lives in a way that we would be in the book? And I think that's probably worth thinking about. Just ask yourself, would I really be in the book of faith? If my life were to put, pen to paper, could I be considered a faithful person, trusting God in all things and not allowing myself to be caught off guard and be pulled some way versus, staying straight and staying in the straight and narrow way, which is a sort of a challenge in time. We've noticed in this modern era of all the changes that are going on in the world today, there's just so many different things, and there's good going on too. But there's also the craziness of things that just continue to go on. So we're reminded about those things. And one of the things that's important here, that one of the favorite things of my 11th chapter experience in the book of Hebrews is this issue with Moses. Moses was put in the basket and put in the river, and Miriam, his sister, watched him go down, and Pharaoh's daughter found him, and he was raised in the palace of Pharaoh's daughter. And it could have been the heir to the king or the Pharaoh of Egypt. But the Bible says it this way in verse number 23 of chapter 11. By faith, Moses, when he was born, was hid 3 months by his parents because they saw that he was a proper child, and they were not afraid of the king's commandments. In other words, his parents were fierce. They believed in no matter what, they were going to take care of their son. And of course they did. Of course, Pharaoh had made a decree that all the male children would be killed, of course. Verse 24, by faith Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter. Now, he had this deal going on that he could have really been somebody, if you will, in the world standards. I mean, Pharaoh's daughter is pretty high up on the list. And he could have been in the heir of the throne of Pharaoh easily. But the Bible said he refused, and then it says this, verse 25, choosing rather to suffer the afflictions with the people of God than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. Wow. I mean, you got to ask yourself the question, am I choosing to stand for God, or am I choosing to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season? I mean, that's a real intimidating statement. And it has to be asked. It has to be dealt with. It has to be reasoned. Dealing with the suffering with the people of God, or choosing rather to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. Well, first of all, sin is available and it's seasonal, just like our 4 seasons here in the mountains. And now we're in fall right now, and winter is coming. It's a season. And the pleasures of sin are for a season. My wife says that a lot to people that she counsels. She talks about situations that they're going through, and she always says it's a season. And it is a season of your life, and some people choose that pleasure of sin. And the problem of that is that sin will take you into a place that you don't want to be. And that season that you live that you think is prosperous and wonderful and great is going to be suffering, terrible, and unkind when you have to deal with it. And Moses here, it says, he chose. It was his choice. It was his choice to make the decision. And then it says in verse 26, esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures in Egypt. Now, I have to understand that Moses had this opportunity, but he chose to be in the position to suffer in order to deliver. And then it says this, for he had respect unto the recompense of the reward. For he left Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, for he endured as seeing him who is invisible. He believed in God. You remember Exodus 3, the burning bush experience. Moses had an incredible experience. Most people think that other than Jesus Christ, Moses was the greatest man in the Bible. And there's a pretty good argument for that because of what he did. He wrote the first 5 books of the Bible. He led millions, a million at least or more. He had an incredible opportunity and chose to follow God. I mean, you know, would I be in this position? Would you? Would you be in the position that you laid down this great opportunity and then was willing to do what God asked no matter what it was? That's a big question. It's something to think about, right? I mean, isn't that right? I mean, should not we consider what Christ did for us and be willing to say, I am going to put things that the world says to the side and follow God? That should be our plight, if you will. That should be our direction. Think about those things. Let that study in your mind a little bit. Would you be in the 11th chapter of Hebrews today? If it was written today, would you be one of those faithful people? You could be, and hope you will be. God bless you. I'll talk to you later.